The rain hammered down on Chicago streets like angry fists against concrete. Natalie Harper pushed through the glass doors of Kane Industries Tower, pulling her thin coat tighter against the bitter wind. Her shift had run late again, but the overtime meant another payment toward her mother's medical bills. The fluorescent lights of the lobby flickered behind her as she stepped into the storm. Thunder rolled across the sky, drowning out the usual city noise. Natalie fumbled with her umbrella, watching it turn inside out within seconds. She was about to give up and make a run for the bus stop when headlights suddenly veered across her vision. A sleek black sedan hydroplaned on the wet asphalt, spinning wildly before slamming into a concrete barrier with a sickening crunch of metal. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then instinct took over. Natalie ran toward the wreckage, her sneakers splashing through puddles. Smoke poured from beneath the crumpled hood. The driver's door was jammed, but she could see a man slumped against the steering wheel. Blood trickled down his temple, mixing with rain that streamed through the shattered window. She yanked at the door handle with all her strength. On the third pull, it gave way. The man inside groaned, his expensive suit soaked through. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glazed with pain. "Stay still," Natalie said, her voice steadier than her trembling hands. "Help is coming." She pulled out her phone, dialing emergency services while checking him for other injuries. His breathing was shallow but steady. As sirens wailed in the distance, she stayed beside him, shielding his face from the rain with her coat. "You saved me," he whispered, his gray eyes finally focusing on her face. "Anyone would have done the same," she replied. His lips curved into the faintest smile before his eyes closed again. An unexpected proposal 3 days later. Natalie received a call that pulled her from her mother's hospital room. A car was waiting downstairs to take her to Kane Industries. She had no idea why, but the woman on the phone insisted it was urgent. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A woman in a crisp suit guided her to a private office where Vincent Kane stood by the window, one hand gripping a sleek black cane. Recognition hit her like a wave. The man from the accident. "Miss Harper," he said, turning slowly. His voice was deep, controlled, carrying the weight of someone used to commanding rooms. "Thank you for coming." "I don't understand why I'm here," Natalie said, clutching her worn purse. "You saved my life." He moved toward his desk with careful steps. "The doctors tell me I need supervised care at home for the next few months. I refuse to have nurses hovering over me like I'm dying." "I'm not a nurse, Mr. Kane." "No, but you ran into danger without hesitation. That tells me more about your character than any credential ever could." He sat down, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "I need someone I can trust. Someone real." Natalie shook her head. "I clean offices. I'm not qualified to take care of someone recovering from a car accident. You'll be compensated well. Full health insurance for you and your mother. A salary that will cover her treatments and more." He slid a folder across the desk. "Read the contract. Think about it." Her throat tightened. The number on the first page made her dizzy. With that kind of money, her mother could get the surgery she desperately needed. But something about this felt impossible, like stepping into a life that didn't belong to her. "Why me?" she asked again. Vincent's expression softened, just barely. "Because when I was at my weakest, you didn't see a CEO or a name on a building. You saw a person who needed help. I need that honesty now more than ever." Entering his world for days later, Natalie stood in the marble lobby of Vincent Kane's penthouse. Her small suitcase, feeling absurdly out of place. The space was all glass and steel, cold perfection that seemed to reject warmth. Every surface gleamed. Not a single item looked out of place. Vincent appeared from a hallway, moving with that same careful precision. "Your room is the second door on the left. I've had it stocked with anything you might need." "Thank you," Natalie said softly. "There are rules." His tone shifted, becoming distant. "I value my privacy. No visitors. No questions about my personal life, and never enter my bedroom without permission." She nodded, feeling the wall he'd built around himself. This wasn't just about physical recovery. something deeper haunted him. That evening, she explored the penthouse quietly. Everything was immaculate, sterile even. But then she noticed something strange. On one wall, there were photographs behind glass. A woman with bright eyes and wind-blown hair, frozen mid-laugh on a beach somewhere sunny. In every photo, she radiated life. "My wife, Claire," Vincent's voice came from behind her. "She died in the accident." Natalie turned, seeing the raw pain in his eyes. "I'm so sorry. The crash was my fault. I was driving too fast in the rain." She told me to slow down. His jaw tightened. I didn't listen. The weight of his guilt filled the room like smoke. Natalie wanted to tell him it was an accident, that he couldn't have known. But she understood that some wounds went too deep for easy words. Instead, she simply said, "I'll do my best to help you." Something flickered in his expression. Relief, maybe? Or hope. As night fell over the city, Natalie unpacked her few belongings in the guest room. Through her window, Chicago sparkled like scattered diamonds. She had stepped into a different world entirely. One filled with luxury and loss in equal measure. But as she lay in the unfamiliar bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that saving Vincent Kane in that rainstorm had been more than chance. It felt like the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. Tomorrow, her real work would begin. Morning light filtered through the glass walls, painting everything in shades of gold. Natalie woke early, her body still programmed to her old schedule. She found Vincent already awake in the kitchen, staring at an untouched cup of coffee. "Good morning," she said quietly. He looked up, seeming surprised she was there. "You don't have to start this early, old habits." She moved to the counter, noticing how empty the refrigerator was. "When was the last time you had a proper meal?" Vincent shrugged. "Food doesn't taste like much anymore." Natalie made a mental note to change that. She spent the morning learning his routine, or lack of one. Physical therapy exercises, he barely completed. Medications he took without question. Hours spent staring at the city below, as if searching for something he'd lost. By afternoon, she ventured out to get groceries. The doorman nodded as she passed, but she felt eyes on her back. Turning quickly, she caught a glimpse of someone in a dark coat near the corner, face hidden beneath a hood. When she blinked, they were gone. Probably nothing, she told herself. But at the market, she felt it again. That prickling awareness of being watched. She moved through the aisles quickly, her heart beating faster than it should. When she paid and left, she saw the same dark coat disappearing into the crowd. This time, she was certain. Growing closer back at the penthouse, Natalie tried to shake off the unease. She focused on cooking, filling the sterile kitchen with the smell of garlic and herbs. When she brought Vincent a plate of pasta, he stared at it like it was a puzzle. "When did you learn to cook like this?" he asked. "My mother taught me. She said food was how you showed love when words weren't enough." He took a bite, and something shifted in his expression. "It's good." "Really good." They ate in comfortable silence, the city lights beginning to twinkle below. For the first time since she'd arrived, Vincent seemed almost relaxed. "Tell me about your mother," he said. Natalie hesitated, then began talking. She told him about Margaret Harper, a nurse who'd worked double shifts to raise her alone. About how illness had stolen her strength, but not her spirit. About the debt that had swallowed their lives whole. Vincent listened without interrupting, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he said simply, "She raised someone remarkable." Compliment caught her off guard. Heat crept up her neck. Over the following days, they fell into a rhythm. Natalie coaxed Vincent through his exercises, celebrating small victories. He began eating the meals she prepared. They talked about everything except the accident. Dancing around the grief that sat between them like an uninvited guest, she discovered he loved old films and jazz music, that he'd built his company from nothing, working 8-hour days for years. That beneath the cold exterior was someone who'd forgotten how to be soft. One evening, she found him standing on the balcony where a small garden space sat neglected. Dead plants and concrete planters, brittle and forgotten. Claire loved gardening, he said without turning. She said even in a place made of glass and steel, life could grow. Then maybe we should bring it back, Natalie suggested. He looked at her, something uncertain in his eyes. I wouldn't know where to start. It's okay. I do. The danger intensifies the next morning. Natalie found a note slipped under the apartment door. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper with typed words. You don't belong in his world. Leave while you can. Her hands shook as she read it. She looked through the peephole, but the hallway was empty. Someone had been right outside while they slept. She considered telling Vincent. But he seemed lighter lately, less burdened. She didn't want to worry him over what might be a cruel prank. But that afternoon, while shopping for garden supplies, a man bumped into her hard enough to knock packages from her arms. "Watch where you step, sweetheart," he muttered, his eyes cold beneath a baseball cap. "Some floors aren't meant for people like you." Natalie's pulse hammered. She gathered her things and hurried back, checking over her shoulder every few steps. The feeling of being hunted crawled under her skin at the penthouse. She threw herself into the garden project, needing the distraction. She cleared away the dead plants, turned the soil, and began planting new seeds. Vincent joined her, moving slowly but determinedly. Working side by side, dirt under their nails felt more real than anything had in weeks. "Why are you really here?" Vincent asked suddenly. "The money helps, I know. But you could have found other work." Natalie sat back on her heels. "Because when I looked at you that night in the rain, I saw someone who needed saving. And I guess I needed to save someone. My mother is slipping away and I can't stop it. But maybe I could help you." His hand covered hers, warm and solid. "You have helped me. More than you know." As the moment stretched between them, charged with something neither dared name. Nightmares and revelations that night, Natalie woke to screaming. She ran to Vincent's room, forgetting the rules. He was tangled in sheets, sweat-soaked and thrashing. "Claire? No. I can't reach you." "Vincent, wake up." Natalie shook his shoulder. "You're safe. It's just a dream." His eyes flew open, wild and disoriented. When he saw her, recognition slowly returned. He was breathing hard, his whole body trembling. "Every night," he whispered, "I see the crash. The rain, the headlights, the moment I lost control. She was screaming my name, and then nothing. Just silence and smoke and her hand going cold in mine." Natalie sat on the edge of the bed, still holding his shoulder. "It wasn't your fault. Accidents happen. But what if it wasn't an accident?" The words tumbled out like he'd been holding them in forever. "What if someone wanted me dead?" She went still. "What do you mean?" Vincent ran, shaking hands through his hair. "There were threats before the crash. A business deal gone wrong. Richard Caldwell, a competitor. He swore he'd destroy me. The police found nothing, but the brake lines were cut. They just couldn't prove who did it." Pieces clicked together in Natalie's mind. The stalking, the note, the threatening man. "Vincent, someone's been following me." His head snapped up. "What?" She told him everything. His face darkened with each word, transforming from vulnerable to dangerous. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to worry you." He stood, despite his unsteady legs. "Natalie, if someone is targeting you because of me, you're in danger. Real danger." "Then we figure it out together," she said firmly. "I'm not running." Vincent looked at her like she was something impossible. "You should be terrified." "I am. But I'm also not leaving you to face this alone." Something broke open in his expression. He pulled her up and into his arms, holding her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. She felt his heart pounding against hers, both of them afraid and alive. "I won't let anything happen to you," he promised against her hair, and Natalie believed him. The garden seeds they'd planted together sat in darkness, waiting to break through soil. Neither of them knew if morning would bring growth or destruction. But for now, they held each other as the city slept, two people bound by fate and danger, beginning to realize that what they'd found might be worth fighting for. Morning came with Detective Torres standing in Vincent's living room, notebook in hand. Natalie had insisted on calling the police, and Vincent had finally agreed. The detective listened carefully as they explained everything from the stalking to the threatening note to Vincent's suspicions about the crash. Richard Caldwell has an alibi for the night of your accident, Mr. Kane, Torres said. But that doesn't mean he didn't hire someone. We've been watching him for other suspected activities. This gives us reason to dig deeper. What about Natalie's safety? Vincent's voice was steel. We'll increase patrols around the building. But Miss Harper, you should vary your routine. Don't go anywhere alone. After the detective left, tension filled the penthouse like static before a storm. Vincent paced, despite his cane, energy radiating from him in waves. You're moving to the guest suite on the other side, closer to my room, and you're not leaving this building without me. I can't live in fear. Then live in caution. Please. The desperation in his voice stopped her protests. That afternoon, while Natalie moved her belongings, she found Vincent in the garden space. He'd been watering the new plants, something he'd started doing without being asked. Tiny green shoots were pushing through the soil, determined and fragile. Life finds a way, she said softly, joining him. So does death, he replied, but there was less bitterness than before. Claire used to say that gardens teach you patience, that you plant seeds not knowing if they'll grow, but hoping anyway. She sounds like she was wise. She was everything. Vincent set down the watering can, and I killed her through my own recklessness and the enemies I made. How do I deserve a second chance when she never got one? Natalie took his hand, feeling the calluses and scars. Maybe second chances aren't about deserving. Maybe they're about choosing to live when everything in you wants to give up. Claire wouldn't want you buried alive in guilt. His fingers tightened around hers. How did you get so brave? I'm not brave. I'm just too stubborn to quit, Vincent laughed, a real sound that transformed his face. That's the same thing, confrontation. 2 days later, everything exploded. Natalie was in the kitchen when the building's fire alarm screamed to life. Vincent appeared immediately, his face grim. That's not a drill. Someone triggered it manually. They moved toward the door, but Vincent stopped her. Wait. He pulled up security camera feeds on his phone. The hallway showed a figure in black, moving toward their floor, face obscured. The panic room, Vincent said, pulling her toward a hidden door in his study. Now, but before they could reach it, their apartment door burst open. A man stood there, gun in hand, his face twisted with rage. Richard Caldwell himself. You destroyed my company, Kane, Caldwell shouted. Cost me everything. Your wife was just collateral damage, but you were supposed to die in that crash. Vincent stepped in front of Natalie, using his body as a shield. This is between us, Caldwell? Let her go. Oh, she's what makes you vulnerable now. Just like Claire did. The gun swung toward Natalie. Everything happened in seconds. Vincent lunged, using his cane as a weapon. It connected with Caldwell's arm just as the gun fired. The bullet shattered a window, and then Detective Torres and 2 officers burst through the door, weapons drawn. Drop it, Caldwell. The man crumpled, the fight draining out of him as officers swarmed forward. Torres cuffed him while reading his rights. We've been watching you. Tapping your phones. We heard everything just now. That's a full confession to attempted murder. As Caldwell was dragged away, still screaming threats, Natalie's legs gave out. Vincent caught her, lowering them both to the floor. They sat there among broken glass and chaos, holding each other, sober Vincent whispered. It's finally over. Natalie pressed her face against his chest, feeling his heart beat wild and strong. You saved me. You saved me first. That night in the rain, every day since, a new beginning. The following weeks brought changes that rippled through everything. Caldwell was charged with multiple crimes. The investigation revealed he'd hired someone to tamper with Vincent's brakes, leading to Claire's death. Vincent finally had answers, and while they didn't erase the grief, they lifted some of the crushing guilt. Natalie's mother received her surgery, fully covered by Vincent's foundation. When Margaret Harper met Vincent for the first time, she took his hand and said, "Thank you for taking care of my daughter, and thank you for letting her take care of you." The garden on the balcony exploded into bloom. White roses, purple lavender, bright yellow sunflowers. Vincent and Natalie tended it together every morning. Their routine now, their meditation, one evening. as the sun set over Chicago, painting the glass penthouse in shades of amber and rose. Vincent found Natalie among the flowers. She was humming softly, her fingers gentle on the petals. "I've been thinking," he said. She looked up, sunlight catching in her hair. "About what?" "About how you walked into my life during the worst storm I'd ever faced. About how you refused to let me drown in grief. About how somewhere between the nightmares in the garden and the danger, I stopped just surviving and started living again." Natalie stood, her heart beginning to race. "Vincent," he took her hands, his gray eyes clear and focused. "I love you, Natalie Harper. Not because you saved my life, but because you reminded me why life is worth saving. You brought light into all this glass and steel. You made me remember how to hope." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I love you too. I think I have since that night in the rain when you looked at me like I was the only real thing in the world." Vincent cupped her face, thumbs brushing away her tears. "You are. You're the most real thing I've ever known." When he kissed her, it was soft and certain, a promise and a beginning. The city stretched out below them, millions of lights flickering to life as darkness fell. But inside that glass penthouse, there was only warmth. They pulled apart slowly, foreheads touching. "What happens now?" Natalie whispered. "We live," Vincent said simply. "We grow like the garden. We choose each other every day. We build something new from the broken pieces. Together. 6 months later, the penthouse had transformed completely. Plants filled every corner, bringing color and life. Photos of Natalie and Vincent decorated the walls alongside the ones of Claire. He'd learned to honor his past while embracing his future. Natalie's mother lived in a comfortable apartment nearby, her health restored. She visited often, teaching Vincent her recipes. Laughing at his terrible cooking attempts, Vincent's company thrived under his renewed leadership. But he worked different hours now, making time for morning coffee with Natalie, for tending the garden, for long evenings talking about everything and nothing. On a crisp autumn evening, Vincent led Natalie to the balcony where it all began. The garden was preparing for winter, some flowers fading, while others bloomed late. He'd hidden something among the roses, a small box covered in velvet. "We started in a storm," he said, kneeling carefully despite his cane. "We survived darkness and danger. We learned that broken things can heal if given enough light and love. Natalie, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you that the best thing I ever did was survive? Because it meant I got to find you." Through happy tears, she pulled him up and kissed him. Yes. Always yes. They stood together as the city lights came on, two people who'd saved each other in every way that mattered. The glass walls that once felt like a prison now felt like possibility. Reflecting back their intertwined future, life had brought them through rain and wreckage, through fear and healing. And now, surrounded by the garden they'd grown together, they stood ready to face whatever came next. Because love, like flowers, needs patience and care. It needs someone willing to plant seeds in darkness, believing in the light that comes after storms. And sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back.